what is your take on the developments that occurred today? Merz fell through in the first round in the Bundestag, as apparently some members of his own party did not vote for him to become chancellor. This was a humiliation. And then on the second round, later in the afternoon, he was approved. What do you think this tells us about the German political scene and Merz's future? Is this just a speed bump for him, or a sign that more unsteadiness is in the future for Germany?
I think it can be a lot of things at once. I think the CDU is a party that has been changing a lot since Chancellor Merkel left. Merz has been seen as a more conservative figure within the CDU. And there's been some people who have not been very comfortable with that. Some people who view last fall when he decided to vote, the CDU and the CSU voted en bloc with the AfD on some migration measures that made some CDU members unhappy. So there's, I think, some friction in terms of where the party is and where it's going. Merz has, unfortunately, also has a sort of history of failing many times before he got the job. I think that with 6 of his members voting against him, it's historic and not in a good way for him. First time in the Federal Republic of Germany's history since the end of the war that this has ever happened. Clearly 6 members were protesting something. We don't know what. We don't know what they asked for, and we don't know who they are, but they want something. So, there is, of course, this is going to harm him in the short term, but it is really remains to be seen what will happen in the future, because frequently we just don't know. I mean, Helmut Kohl was not the strongest when he first became Bundeskanzler back in the 80s, and he became one of the most iconic chancellors in German history. So I think we'll have to see, but it was not a great day for the new chancellor of Germany.
Well, Germany faces the rise of the AfD, the Alternative for Germany, which has just been branded by the government as an extremist party, yet it's the second biggest party in the Bundestag, or federal parliament. You have an economy that has experienced zero growth in Germany, and you have a military that still appears to be in shambles. Do you think that Friedrich Merz, who comes from a business background and has suspended the debt brake in Germany so that they are going into deficit spending for both the infrastructure and the military, do you think he has an auspicious chance of turning the country around?
Yes, I do. It's going to be, the proof is going to be in the pudding. I mean, for most voters, for most people, it doesn't matter in Germany, the United Kingdom, the United States, it is pocketbook issues that matter most. And their stagnant economy, which really has been struggling, obviously, over the past 5 years, in particular, the last coalition government really epically failed. He is a businessman, and they need someone like him. They need economic reform, and they need it desperately. Having said that, I, as an American, as a German, I would be troubled that the government decided to weigh in on what I believe is a political matter in terms of the AfD, beat him at the polls, beat him in the political system, as opposed to having them labeled an extremist party. And there's no question the AfD should be a cause of concern. The Likud party of Israel has decided to cozy up with some of the more hard-right political parties of Europe, with one exception. That would be the AfD. The AfD, its history is an interesting one. It didn't actually begin as being sort of a far-right, sort of flirting with Germany's Nazi past. That's not where it began. But some of its most prominent members do knowingly flirt with the country's Nazi past. There's, I think, one of the governors in the former GDR, he has openly used the word Lebensraum, and I don't think anyone needs to...
Just for our listeners, GDR is the East Germany of the German Democratic Republic,
yes.
And Lebensraum is living space, a term used by the Nazis as they invaded Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union.
Yes, and I think the same gentleman said about the Second World War and the Nazi regime that it was mere what was it? Bird droppings in
Yes.
Germany's
Yeah.
great history. But I think putting that aside, which is significant, but there's clearly a protest movement in Germany against the established order, against the established parties. And that's what happened in that vote what was that, in February? Yes, in February. So I think these politicians need to be very careful to really deliver what they promised and not give voters a reason to keep protest voting for the AfD. And again, this is Germany, and in Europe, they don't have the same political system that we have in the United States, which is big, loud, and with lots of money. But there is a very easy space to knock the AfD back with a real campaign against them. And I would if I were them. But I think from Mr. Merritt's, back to your question, I think it's to be determined. He's going to have to actually make dramatic changes for people in Germany. They're going to have to see improvement in their pocketbooks, the most essential issue for them. And I would say, yes, of course, rearmament is very important. And yes, they're going to spend a lot on defense, and that's really important, and they can reindustrialize in some spaces. But again, most voters, it goes back to Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. It's always the economy. And so he's got his work cut out for him. His coalition government has its work cut out for them. We'll see if they can pull it off.